Welcome to the Operatory podcast, the podcast about burying the dinosaurs in dentistry, moving past outdated technology and procedures to find a better way. With me, as always, is the man, the myth, providing the most important patient perspective, David Pryor. How are you doing, sir?
Good. I almost forgot to try to screw you up on your intro, so that was. I know I'm off my game. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah. I've been talking to non-Daves on the podcast, which has been great. But it's nice to have you back, my man.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to talk about something now, except for one big problem.
What's that?
It's about to be winter in Minnesota.
It's already winter in Minnesota.
It's about to. No, dude, this is not winter in Minnesota. You may think this. Okay, for those of you who are like in Florida or Arizona who listen to the podcast, first of all, Dave and I are about to be very mad at you for the next few months. But also, you probably don't realize that the temperature that it is in the beginning of winter, like Dave's saying today, you'll be wearing shorts in April when it's this temperature,
absolutely,
right?
Yep.
So this is not winter. When there's a little dash, when a negative is before the weather in Minnesota, that's when Minnesotans say it's wintertime.
Yeah,
right?
The negative temperatures come out. Yeah, I suppose that is a valid point, but once we get those first few snowfalls, and I just drove past a park today where I still saw a giant snowman in existence, not melted away, I know it's going to be there for the rest of the year.
Yep. Like the Starks say, winter is coming.
Yes.
And when winter's coming, I said something once that you thought was funny, and it was
hard to believe.
Wow. Wow. Well, it was that because we talk about burying the dinosaurs in dentistry, right? Which means that we're moving past outdated technology and procedures.
Yes.
Right. And I said, that's like putting a sweater on a dinosaur.
I did laugh at that one. I thought that was very clever.
I said it was like putting a sweater on a dinosaur and making sure, and then suspecting it to make it through the winter in Minnesota. And there's a lot of things in dentistry that I think are like that. Analogies of, we have this dinosaur here. Let's chuck a sweater on it and it'll be just fine. So these are like things not to do.
Okay.
Right? So we're looking at dentistry going, there's, ways to improve things. Here's how not to do it.
Okay.
Right? This is like there's that Netflix show like Failed. Like you look at how it looks like on the box and then like what your cupcake that your Yoda cupcake looks like. It's a smeared green thing versus whatever's on the box, right? Yeah. So number one, and this is, I know will fall squarely into your purview, Dave, of us, an ugly sweater. This is an ugly sweater for a dinosaur. Okay. PDFs on people's websites.
Yeah, that does fall into my world.
Yeah, I'm paperless, right? Yeah. But what you're actually doing is you're taking all of the pain factor with forms, or maybe half of it, and putting it on the patient or your customer. You're making them do extra work. Like in what world we live in a world of convenience where you can order like a tank overnighted to your house from Amazon, but we're making people print off forms at home, which, I mean, most people don't even have a printer anymore.
So that is the issue that I run into all the time when people are calling me, I've got to get paperless forms because they've had PDFs on their website forever. They think it's a great solution and they are quote unquote paperless. Yeah, it's not your paper. It's your patient's paper that's getting printed. And so it turns into a colossal hassle for them, colossal hassle for the front desk. So
you still have to, you still get a piece of paper coming in. So that piece of paper, not only the patient printed off using their printer that they probably don't have on paper that they don't buy because they don't do things with paper very much anymore, but then their 14-year-old that just came home from middle school sneezed all over it and brought that paper, that contaminated paper into your practice for you to spread around. Nice. That's it's just not good workflow, right? And then that poor front desk person still has to flip a coin. It's probably about a 50-50 shot. Did the paper come in or not? So how do you schedule for that? Right? Oh, come 5 minutes early. Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it's just that embodies to me sweatering up a dinosaur, right? I mean, doesn't it's
absolutely
like I did
accurate.
something. All you did was make it worse.
Yep.
I mean, frankly, I think it is worse than doing paper in your practice. It's making it seem like you think you know what the problem is, but you totally missed the mark, right?
Yep.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so moving on to, so don't put PDFs on a website. Make it a totally paperless experience. If you don't have them, paperless forms with Opera DDS, you can try it out for free right now for 30 days, operadds.com. Number 2, using Zoom or something like a HIPAA-compliant version of Zoom and calling yourself, saying that you do teledentistry virtual consults, right?
Yep.
What a pain. I don't, when was the last time you and I video chatted outside of like work stuff? It doesn't happen.
It's always it's never happens. And the only time it does happen is when you're trying to create an event, and then there's always a 15-minute buffer of people jacking around trying to figure out how to do it. So yes.
Yep.
That has been my experience.
Just yesterday, I forgot that it was my Zoom account, so I didn't start the meeting. Then I'm like, where are they? You know, I mean, that stuff happens all the time. You're muted. How many Zoom calls have you been on where 95% of the people don't have their camera on, right?
Yeah.
People do not want to be on camera. And then guess what? So, Dave, you have a broken tooth, number 31, back lower right, as a patient. You what do you want? You want to know what's going on with your mouth, right?
Yep.
Right? And I go, okay, great. Well, show it to me.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Like wrap your mouth around the webcam?
That is what I would do in that situation.
What you would do. No. Yeah, no, you're gonna be like, well, how about you send me a photo of it, right? Which is not asynchronous, and so, we've, the best way to communicate with patients is either something like secure texting, like we have within Opera DDS, or else having it also integrate with your practice management software, right? Mm-hmm. So otherwise, all you're doing is creating extra workflow. One of the major reasons why people lose malpractice insurance claims is because of lack of documentation.
Right.
When you're at home Friday night and that patient gives you a phone call, right, or you're on a HIPAA-compliant version of Zoom, and you don't jot it down, I mean, the percentage of time that this actually gets put into the patient's chart in my office is very low. So let's make it automated so you can write your notes right at that time when you're doing a virtual consult and have it directly go into the patient's chart to make it easy, right? That is the right way to do teledentistry. So even these brand new technologies like HIPAA compliant versions of Zoom can just be fancy sweaters for dinosaurs.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Well, and to, I guess going one step further in from my role when talking about add-on products to Opera DDS, having our tooth service video chat is gives you the ability to do your charting notes while in the meeting. And then archive it back into the practice management system with the click of a button. So that from my perspective as a clinician, being in those live chat meetings and being able to take those notes and have it kick back in on the back end, and then on the front end, actually having it automatically get the patient's medical history information, the whole
before you talk
the
to
whole
the patient.
intake packet before you ever talk to them, so that you're requiring them to get you the information you need to make sure you're not taking up valuable time capturing that information. So I really think that it's a home run in what we produced for a live video conferencing solution for patients that is truly HIPAA compliant.
It is the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Video chatting sucks. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
So let's minimize it. Like it's great. It has a very specific use for a short period of time.
Yep.
But everything else, like talking about medical histories and stuff, no, let's have that happen before you ever talk to the patient. So you're armed with all the information when you're on that video chat and keeping it as small as possible. Because guess what? When you're at your kid's baseball game, right, you do not want to be interrupted if you don't need to be.
Right.
So let's make it so only if you need to do a video chat, which you can.
Yep.
Right. And then also when you're talking to the patient, guess what? What they just had done is up on the screen, so you can see it. So if Joan is calling and complaining about the crown that would just happen,
Yep.
you know what was done, right? That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
That's what you call looking like a moron avoidance, right there, right?
Well, and for doctors, that's a big deal. And in my experience, when talking to doctors about really all aspects of Opera DDS, they're really looking to make sure they're making a good decision and not putting themselves in danger of like, oh, I just look stupid in front of my staff. So it's like if you can come through with something where it really increases workflow, makes things easier for everybody, I think I really like the product. I think it's really cool.
Well, and the flip side of that too is not looking. I mean, when you have smooth communication, when you know exactly what's going on, right?
Yep.
That is what people, right or wrong, probably wrong, but that equates to what people think of as high quality of care.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Professionalism.
Professionalism. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't because patients can't, you even working in dentistry, like if I told you to evaluate a tooth preparation, you would laugh at me hysterically. Like,
oh, totally.
Right? I mean, you don't know, and you don't even know what looks good, what doesn't look good. That's on the dentist side. On the patient side, the way they evaluate us is, if we know what we're doing, if we do not put in sweaters on dinosaurs, right?
Right.
If you come up and it's like, hey, guess what? I've got a huge parka to put on a polar bear and set into that makes sense in Minnesota winter, right?
Yeah.
Bad analogy, but it makes sense, right? So the last one that we have is probably the one that for me just riles me up the most because it's almost like taking a step backwards in a lot of ways. And it has to do with our therapeutic virtual reality platform, Opera VR.
Yep.
A lot of people are like, why can't I just use an Oculus, right?
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that would be a nightmare. Like trying to use a traditional VR headset to calm anxiety in a dental chair. All you're going to do is increase issues that can occur versus decrease issues.
It's the number one thing I talk about when I'm presenting Opera VR is that it's never been complicated for me to get people to wrap their head around the fact that virtual reality is going to change the patient experience and patients are going to love it. Mm-hmm. That is never a complicated issue.
Easy to see. Yep.
Easy to see for everyone. What's always the hang up for everyone is staff does not like change. So when we produced Opera VR, the big thing for us was creating something that is ridiculously easy to use. That was the key for us. And so making it so that literally you simply have to power the device on, place it over the patient's eyes, and that's it.
Yeah.
And the device will just play because all the content's loaded on there. So you don't have to worry about Wi-Fi. You don't have to worry about anything else. It just works. And that's the thing that like people go out and try, off the shelf VR. They're like, yeah, I leaned back in the chair and all I was looking at was sky. I'm like, yeah,
that's the way it works.
That's the way they work.
Yeah.
And so we really put a lot of work and effort into making it absurdly easy.
Well, and you can freak people out in VR, right? If anybody wants to experience what can happen, just like load up any horror game and you'll be more freaked out than you ever have in your entire life. And when people have anxiety coming into the practice, seemingly innocuous, simple things like a fly going by you can freak people out. So we've been very, very intentional about the content. And then, like you said, the way it's presented, giving all of the control to the team members, not the patient. So the patient can't somehow get out. And then guess what?
Yeah.
Good luck training somebody how to use a VR headset in the middle of your day. Right. No, it doesn't happen. So just being a simple web remote to log into and content that makes it easy. Like you said, they can watch anything in Opera VR, and it's very sedate and calming, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you from my experience, if you don't make it ridiculously easy for your staff, and I know everybody listening is just nodding their head up and down, if you don't make all technologies ridiculously easy for your staff to use, it will fail.
Oh yeah.
And that is why we are quote unquote the easy solution, because I run into it all the time where people call up and is it easy to use? Yes. Because my practice doesn't have tech savvy people. And I always say, you know who else's practice doesn't? Everyone's.
Yep. Welcome to planet Earth.
Yes.
Welcome to planet Earth.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, those are 3 examples that I would like to propose that people are trying to put a sweater on a dinosaur and see if it'll last through the Minnesota winter.
Yep.
PDFs on your website, don't do it. HIPAA-compliant versions of Zoom are a waste of time, in my opinion. And then also use therapeutic version. If you're going to use therapeutic virtual reality in your practice, use therapeutic virtual reality. And dentistry is only one. It's funny that we're 3 years later, we've kind of defined the category and we're still the only one. So try it out. Opera VR. It's digitalnitrous.com. And if you want to learn more about getting real paperless forms or video chat that leverages messaging back and forth with patients prior to you ever talking to them, go to operadds.com. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Bryan.
As a pleasure. As always, a pleasure.
Well, thank you.